Guys, welcome back to Monday Trends. Hope everybody out there is having a great morning and start to your week ahead. So this Monday, we have Megan, who is busy at the moment, so she's not going to be joining us, but we're going to do her proud and get after it here. All right, so diving in, guys, we are going to first start with implementing UCG or UGC. I always screw that up. User-generated content, right? And on your social media strategy. So one thing that businesses have to be geared up for, whether you're a smaller brand, sales, whatever, on your social channels. You have to remember, again, keeping in mind that people do not want to be sold anything on social media. They're going on social media to literally watch their friends, their family, eat a hamburger, go to a club, have a baby, all this shit, right? People go on social media to brag and to have fun and to whatever. But the point though is that when we're a business, okay, and we're doing this, and when we're creating content, a lot of times we're thinking about it from the perspective of our own internal things that we want to have out there, right? Our own selfish reasons, right? So like as a business, you want to post the things that are going to help you get more sales. Or if you're in brand, you want to build a brand, a personal brand, you're doing things that'll help make your brand look great, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the people want to consume, right? That's more selfish. That's what you want. It's better for you. It's better for your brand. It's better for your business, whatever. But the point though is with user-generated content, why this is important. A lot of this segment today is going to be around going through Gen Z generation. So having that said, with user-generated content, a lot of times when you see people, instead of somebody trying to sell something, right? And they're on, they're pushing their things on social media, and they're talking about, the product or the service or whatever it is that they're doing. When you have user-generated content, that's where you have your customers, literally create some content around it. And obviously, it takes some work on your part to make that happen, but it's where you have your customers get some content created so that you're seeing, and your fans or followers are seeing through the lens of your customers that type of experience, right? So, quick example: user-generated content. A good example of it would be, I have a new child, my son Johnny. And with him as an example, a good example here is if I bought a baby product, right? So let's just say it's like Swimmies for infants that are 6 months old plus, and I'm getting some content of him in the pool, swimming with it, us having fun, and I tag the business in it, right? And they grab that content, and now they can recycle and use that content. In most cases, people set up shoots like that, where it's like a real customer, real people actually using the product, the service, and it's content created by the user, right? Another aspect would be this right here, right? So I'm doing a podcast. There's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment that we're utilizing for this live stream here, but it's like we're utilizing this content. We can use this, and we can send this or tag all these different companies in it, and then boom, that's UGC, user-generated content. It goes off a lot better, especially for people that are watching it, because instead of them feeling like they're being sold something, it feels like a real person, a real customer who actually uses the product is telling you about the experience or telling you about the product, why they love it, or how they use it, right? So that is a big thing moving forward that we have to think about, and you have to think about how can you apply this to your business. So user-generated content, big deal. Next up on our list, Rob, we got over there, we're going to how to effectively speak to Chat GPT. And one of the things, obviously, you're seeing it like crazy right now. People keep talking about AI, Chat GPT. We've been talking about it month over month over month here, with Monday Trends, getting new businesses ready to rock and roll. But one of the things that I want to talk about here is that at the end of the day, it's a virtual assistant, right? This AI assistant is something that is there to help you, and you have to ask specific prompts. So before, we all thought like, wow, what can it do for us? What can it do? And we've figured out a whole heck of a lot it can do, right? But the real use case of this being really effective, this whole Chat GPT and AI, is what you ask it, what are the prompts, and how you speak to it. So one of the best things that we did some research here at Adapting Social in our research lab. And one of the things that we did was we said, let's ask Chat GPT how we can ask better questions. What are the right prompts that we can use so that it's actually giving us the best answers and responses that we're looking for, right? So a lot of times people say, hey, write me 30 days worth of social media content, or write me, a press release, for my new product, my grand opening. Write me a response to this. And we ask it very simple questions. And it'll give you an answer, but typically the answer will be simple and you're like, oh, that wasn't even a great answer, right? You have to learn, and this is going to be the whole key with AI, is learning how to speak to it, learning how to ask the right questions of AI. So my challenge for everybody that's listening here, or what I would just suggest you do, is before you do that, whatever you're utilizing Chat GPT for, if you haven't, guys, people are using it for so many things, not just for business, also for personal. I know people who are literally asking, people from high school, people to prom, Chat GPT, what's the best way to ask somebody to prom, right? Bam, they're asking questions like that. Write me a love letter for my wife. For the record, Jack, and I don't do that. Just making it clear here.
Itinerary for vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Another good one. Rob said an itinerary for vacation, right? So people are doing all of these things, and it's all about the question, right? So let's just use a quick, better example, right? So again, my challenge is ask ChatGPT, what is the best way to prompt and ask questions based on what you're looking to ask the question on. But another example I'll give you is Rob just, shared, ask it for an itinerary for a vacation, right? Now, in theory, that sounds simple, right? Like, okay, I'm just going to ask it, what are some good things to do in Greece, right? But the thing is you got to say things like, and this is where you get deep into how to talk to AI. And the better way to do it is, I'm going on a vacation to Greece. I have this much money to spend. Here's what I like doing. I'm not a very active person, or I am a very active person, or I love beaches. I don't love beaches. I love food. I love going to bars. I love clubs. I love this. I love that. You put all those things there and say, knowing all this information, please show me things that are in my price range or in my whatever, and highlighting the fact that I like to do these things, but my wife also likes to do completely other things, right? So you put all this information in there, and it's going to grab all that information, go look at all this information online, and then pull the best itinerary for you based on you giving it all of that information. So I guess what I'm alluding to here before we move on to the next topic is you have to have all the information in for the question and intelligently, right? And think ahead and say these things that that you would want, right? All right, next up, Robbie, we got, are you speaking to the Gen Z and millennial audience properly? And for anybody watching in here, I am a millennial, right? So a lot of these things that I am learning and trying to dive deep into surprise me in some cases. But the one thing I want to say is that a lot of times, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about user-generated content. When you're sitting there and you're creating, right? And you're creating content or you're building something, right? And you find yourself in a position where you're building out your marketing, messaging, branding on social media, the things you're posting, the things you have on your website, the things you put in a postcard, a mailer, or whatever, or any sort of brochure, wherever you are. What we need to realize is that the Gen Z, we're going to start with them definitely first. Gen Z has the biggest buying power in America right now. And in most cases, in most of the countries that we serve, UK, Australia, Canada, you name it. But the point, though, is that at the end of the day, we know that Gen Z is the biggest buying power, but are we speaking to them properly, right? And do we know what they like or what they don't like, right? So again, another ChatGPT thing, pop on there. What are some good messaging? What are some good messaging or branding that I should be focusing on that tailors to the Gen Z marketplace? But the answer to these things are in our deep research in our Adapting Social Lab. At the end of the day, they care about a few things, right? And they're very purpose-driven. They want to know the business owner. They want to know the faces behind the brand. They don't just care about the logo anymore, the cool logo or brand. When they want to support the small business. They want to support the charity. They want to support the cause. They don't care anymore just about the things that were, okay, that's cool. I love this. This is, a brand and everyone's wearing this brand. A lot more Gen Zs are focused around actually building and focusing on other types of niche brands that people don't even know about or hear about. That's cooler to them now. So number one, never hide behind your brand. I think that's an important part. Gen Z wants to know who you are, that generation. They want to be able to interact, know what you're doing, know what it's like in a day-to-day. They want that interaction. Whereas, from the, I would say millennial all the way through, Gen X to the boomers, they really loved privacy. They didn't want anybody knowing about them. That's why most of them hate social media or Facebook. You ever see those people you go talk to and they're like, I'm not on Facebook. I don't want to be on that face space. I don't want nobody knowing my shit. At the end of the day, right? That was their generation. So, but now people want transparency. They want to know what's going on, right? So the first thing is faces behind the brand and not hiding behind the brand, because Gen Z wants it. Secondly, it's transparency. They want to know everything about you, the missions, the values, the goals. They care about that stuff. They're very purpose-driven generation. It's not just surface level. They care about all the different aspects. The third thing, which was actually quite surprising in our research, was they care about how you treat your staff and your team. And that's wild to say, but look at what happened with Ellen DeGeneres. Look at James Corden, all these different people that have gotten backlash for literally being so insane with their teams and being complete a-holes to their teams, or really disruptive and not caring about them. People were trying to cancel the shit out of Ellen and stuff. So I think that leads me to the last point is Gen Z has Gen Z. Let me wrap that actually before we move to the last one, Rob. So, but speaking to their audience is super important because they have the most buying power, but they also have the most influence. And that influence can go either to really be favoring you or to really not be favoring you. And it to really hurt you a heck of a lot more than it can help you, right? So now we're gonna move on to our last one. And it talks about the buying power, but in reiterating, speaking to them is important, knowing what matters to them is important. And I just want to, again, debrief and recap that it matters about who you are, your mission, your values, and transparency. I know everybody wants to be private. I get it. Typically, if you're at the age of 30, late 30s to 40s plus, a lot of times people are like, oh, I want to be private. I don't want people to know about my family or my friends or what I do for work. That's not the world anymore, guys. You have to do it. You got to do it. I'm sorry to tell you that. Gen Z, the most buying power, they want to see it. They want to know who you are. They want to know all about you. They want to know what you care about, what you don't care about. And that is important to them. So leading us into the buying power. So what is their buying power? So I'm saying all this. Some of you are probably like, I don't care. I don't give an F, right? So, but they have 360 billion with a B, okay? Buying power annually. That is the biggest by far, okay? So they have $360 billion disposable, Gen Z, that they're dumping into products, services, experiences, all these different things. And how you speak to them is either going to drive some of that towards you or it's going to drive that away from you. And now let's start to talk about the away from you component, okay? So we've seen, especially over the past couple of years, definitely, COVID, we were sitting at home, we're watching TV, we're watching a lot of social and stuff more than ever. What did we see? We saw a lot of people getting canceled. So cancel culture. Gen Z has the buying power, and this is where it's a little bit of a hybrid between Gen Z and Millennial, because it's definitely both. But the whole cancel culture aspect comes down to when you're not doing things and you're not speaking to this Gen Z generation properly, right? Or doing those right things, they have not only the biggest buying power, okay, in America and typically throughout the whole world, but they have the biggest cancel power. So when you're looking at your strategy, what you're posting on social media, what you're sending an email blast, what you're going live with, what you're doing here when people see you on social and in this world, it is very, very important. You think about how you can speak to this audience, how you can benefit this audience, but also how you can make sure that you're in line and moving away from the things that don't resonate with them. Because again, they have the biggest buying power and the biggest canceling, and again, it can hurt you power. So as a business owner, a brand, whatever it is that you're focused on, you have to consider all these things. And it's only going to keep going that direction more and more and more and more. So guys, that is the topics we have for today. First and foremost, I am super grateful for everybody who took some time to come watch this today, even if it's for a few minutes. The goal here, as I mentioned time and time again, is for us to be able to provide these types of value-added tips or news or things that are breaking right now for business owners, brands, executives, salespeople, or just people in their careers that really want to take what they're doing in their brand or marketing to that next level. So if you care about an entrepreneur, a business owner, or somebody in their career that could see this, please tag them or go give us a subscribe on YouTube. And I'm going to end off with a little typical Monday motivation, as I always do. And this one hit me deep. Every Monday, typically every morning I wake up, I do my morning routines. And this Monday, something hit me pretty big, and it was staying the course when you are doing something that is either great, something that is new, something that you really want, something that's different. It is so easy, guys, to get sidetracked. It's so easy to let the challenges that you are essentially going through right now, throughout whatever you're doing, interrupt you and to derail you from the ultimate goal that you're after. And over the past 15 years in starting Adapting Social, having no funding, not having a college education, never doing business before, I was a teenager when I started this. Time and time again, I was running into these challenges. And it wasn't until probably, I would say probably close to like my first 5 years in that I realized wow, it's these challenges that give me the experience, the knowledge to get better and to get stronger. And when you look at people out there who let's use the words fail, which I don't look in my vocabulary, failure is not a bad thing because you're learning from it. You only fail when you quit and walk away, which I would never do. But you can lose. You have losses, right? And you learn from those. And I think the biggest thing is that a lot of us out there right now, I know somebody watching this for sure, is going through whatever version of their own life of doing something that they're working really hard at. They're trying really hard, whether it's their health, whether it's relationships, whether it's career. They're busting their butts. So I almost said ass. I was about to say ass. Busting their butts. I'm trying to get PG-13 here. But they're busting their butts to try and do the best that they can when really all they have to do is stay the course. If you're grinding, let's just use a quick example, okay? If you're grinding and let's make it a really easy example. You're a photographer, or if you're in real estate, right? So if you're in real estate and you're grinding in your first year, for most people who are in real estate, no, it's the toughest year. Because in real estate, if you're not out there hunting and you ain't getting after it and you ain't getting closes, you are not eating, right? You don't hunt, you don't eat. That's the beautiful part and the tough part about sales, right? But the point though is that when I see a lot of these successful realtors that I know very well, I've seen real estate agents come and go over the past 15 years, right? And people in sales, people in business, all alike. But for this example, we're going real estate. And the one thing that I've noticed is that the people who are still here, the people who are successful now, are the people who stayed the course. They didn't shy off, okay? And that's what happens with most people. They try something, they do for a couple months or a couple years, and then they just go away. But nothing that you know or nothing that exists that anybody here holds true and of a high respect comes easy. And so I think staying the course is going to be the theme of this week. Staying the course. What you are doing, what you're working so hard for, you walk away, somebody else is going to step in and stay the course and then get the success you wish you had. Don't shy away. And I think the one thing that I learned from one of my mentors over the years, very, very successful guy in the telecommunications industry. And he said to me, John, there's one piece of advice I can give you. Because I asked him, I said, what would be one thing you would tell me? This guy still crushing it, but he's in his 90s now. But when he told me it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and he said, John, I said to him, if you could give me one piece of advice, what would it be? He said, John, the only advice I would ever give anybody is never, ever, 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 ever. And he kept going. No exaggeration. He said, give up. When you're into something and you want to see it through, and again, that's why when you think of your health and think about your career, when you think about your relationships, these are the things that applies to. And ultimately, it's the one thing that I would say is a big part of my success is that I was never always the smartest person in the room. I wasn't always, I didn't have the most experience. I definitely did not have the most money. But the one thing I did is I showed up day in and day out for 15 years. And most people are like, oh, I've been doing this for a year. or 5 years or 4 years or 6 years, and whatever. This is hard. This is a lot, guys. You got to get tougher skin. Like if you want to succeed, stay the course. And that's the Motivation Monday for today, guys. Thank you so much again for watching. I hope everybody creates an amazing week. You're in charge of it. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you.